Welcome everybody to our network meeting focusing on family activities and creating family resources. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fran Stovold and I'm the Workforce Development Lead for Sporting Heritage. I'm really pleased to say that today we've been joined by Alison Bowyer from Kids in Museums, and we're going to have a general chat around what Kids in Museums can provide and how you can get involved. So without further ado, can I jump straight in? And Alison, would you like to introduce yourself and introduce ourselves to Kids in Museums?
Thank you very much, Fran. So my name is Alison Bowyer. I'm the Executive Director of Kids in Museums. I've been in that role now for coming up for 7 years. And I have a background in culture, heritage, and particular focus on young people's participation. So all of those things came together in this job. So Kids in Museums has existed in one form or another for about 20 years now. So we are less of a kid these days. It started life as a campaign by a journalist called Dee Burkitt. She was visiting the Royal Academy of Arts with her young son, and he screamed at a large Aztec statue, which seems perfectly understandable to me. Some of those statues are really imposing and potentially frightening. But unfortunately, the Royal Academy at the time weren't too happy with this and they were asked to leave. So this inspired or prompted Dee to find out whether other people were having similar experiences. At the time, she wrote a column in The Guardian about travelling with children, and she found out that this was happening to lots of people, and lots of people with children didn't feel that their families were welcome in museums. And so Kids in Museums was born. Since then, it's existed in various guises, but from just before I joined, so from around 2015, we became a sort of more formalised charity with a permanent staff, moving towards how we are today. So to explain a bit about what we do, first of all, our name is a bit misleading. We don't only support museums, we work with anyone who has a collection of any kind. So it can be a gallery, a historic home, a castle, an outdoor sort of archaeological site. Everyone is very welcome to use our services, and that's organisations big or small. So everyone from organisations run by a few volunteers right up to large national organisations. And we try and keep as much as we possibly can of what we do free. Our aim is to work with museums representing and championing audience voices. So as much as possible of what we do is guided by what we know families, children and young people think about their experiences of going to museums, galleries, those kind of venues. And that's really important to us. We talk regularly to families about their experiences, and as well as working with children and families, we work with young people right up to the age of 25, and we have our own youth panel and young trustees who we talk to regularly too, and our young trustees represent that perspective on our board. And we found overall having that, being grounded in that voice, is massively beneficial to everything we do, and means we can really help museums with understanding those audiences.
Yeah, so that sounds great. I've been aware of kids museums for many years now, and I've always encouraged museums that either I've worked at or that I've worked with to get involved, because it has always been so inclusive. And that, like you say, that the voice of the family and the young people really comes through. And I remember that original story coming out with Dee having visited the gallery, and just the outrage there was, and yet, as you say, it was not an isolated experience in any way. So thinking about our members for Sporting Heritage, so if you're working in a sports organisation or a national governing body for sport, they would still be able to use all your resources as well, I take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. That'd be great for us, because we're a very broad church here at Sporting Heritage. Everything from the the traditional heritage from museums and galleries and archives and libraries, but also out to all the sporting organisations, clubs, national governing bodies, and everything else that sits around it. So what is at the heart? I know that there are various ways that people can get involved in kids in museums. If somebody was just starting off, wanting to think about how they might work on their family's offer, where would you recommend that they start using your resources?
So a really great starting point is our manifesto. So the manifesto is created in consultation. So every couple of years we go out and we ask families, children and young people about their experiences of visiting museums. We then gather all of that information together and we distill it down into a small number of principles that we think all museums should aspire to achieve. So the current manifesto has 6 points, and it's really an all-encompassing document dealing with everything from sort of practical facilities like having chairs for people to sit down, having children's food in your cafe if you've got a cafe, right through to making sure that you have clear, readable, accessible labels on your collections. You're enabling families to feedback about their experiences, and you are representing the types of things that young people particularly are interested in seeing on a visit. So the manifesto is useful to organisations in a number of different ways. People use it to review and assess their offer for families. So we have, to support this, we have what we call a self-assessment tool, which is free to access on our website. And it's a really simple document that just takes you through every point in the manifesto, key things that we think represent that point. So, for example, the be welcoming point could be something like, are your staff confident in saying hello to children when they arrive? And we go through all of those things, and we encourage you to look around your space and see what's working well to celebrate those strengths, and then what you might need to improve on. And then to help you with the improvements, we have another tool which we call our low and no cost resource, which suggests really simple things that don't cost much money to implement, but will really help you improve your family offer. And we encourage all organisations to look at doing that. We also encourage organisations to sign up and make that commitment publicly. So you can sign our manifesto on our website. About 1,200 organisations in the UK and further afield have now done that. And once you've signed up, you appear on our manifesto map and we send you a logo you can put on your website that says we've signed the Kids in Museums manifesto, which is a good signpost to families so they know that you're trying to be family friendly. And to sign the manifesto, it's free, and you don't have to have achieved all the 6 points. You just need to be making a commitment to working towards those and being a better organisation for families.
Yes, that's what I was going to jump in and ask. I know that for some of our organisations, particularly those at the beginning of their sort of journey of working with families, or those who've got particular restrictions either around how they're able to display their heritage, or the sort of sites that maybe they work in, won't be able to achieve everything straight away. But as you say, it's something that people can work towards over a period of time. Is there a time limit at all on how long it takes people to achieve the manifesto, or is it all just the overarching sort of spirit that people are working towards it sort of in a more holistic way?
Yeah, it's much more of the latter. We know that organisations have different amount of staffing, time, financial resources, so that people can work at their own pace. And also we know that there are some organisations that for whatever reason may not ever be able to meet all of the points, just because there's something about their site that makes it impossible, or there's something about their collections or their staffing, and that's fine. If you're only ever going to make meet 4 of the points, we'd rather you met 4 of them than none of them.
Mm.
So it is about an ongoing process, and I think it's also about sort of, well, not continually, but regularly checking back in with it, maybe having it up on the wall in your office or something, so your staff and volunteers can see it, or maybe like putting it in your staff and volunteer handbooks. So there's like a ongoing awareness that this is really important to your organisation, and this is what you're trying to achieve.
Mm. And you can, yes, it comes in printable formats, and they're really attractive with your mammoth logo. So it is a great thing to have up. I've done both those things, had it on notice boards and put it in volunteer handbooks or staffing handbooks, so that people can see that we're signed up to it. Without putting you on the spot, have you got any examples of some of the low cost or no cost ways that people can implement the manifesto?
Yes, of course. So there are some like really simple things that you can do. So for example, in your bathrooms, if all of your sinks are at adult height, you can spend a relatively small amount of money buying some booster steps, so children can stand on them and wash their hands without their parent or carer having to lift them. Equally, if you've got high up display cases, you can do the same thing. You can buy some steps. You can maybe, I mean, this could be low cost, it depends on what your labels are like, but if your labels are low cost to produce, you might want to look at whether it's clear if things can be touched or not touched. And you might want to devise a really simple system. So for everything that you can touch, you might just want to print out a thumbs up sign or something and put it by it, so people confidently know what they can and can't touch, and that removes all the stress of like worrying that your child or whoever is you're visiting with is going to touch something that they shouldn't. And some really simple things to do with staff, just across, like if you're open to the public, across your team of staff and volunteers who greet people, just come up with a greeting you agree that you're going to say to all families. So it could just be something about welcoming them. If you've got like a family trail or something, pointing out what facilities that they might want, and maybe if you feel confident, giving the children like a challenge, like, did you see the whatever, and saying, come back and tell us at the end. So you've then got an opportunity to say goodbye to them as well. Maybe offer them a feedback form. So there's loads of simple things like that in the resource that you can do that cost little or nothing, but will make a difference.
And particularly that last example will help you then look at where you can improve your family's offer, because you're getting that sort of, yeah, it's that building in that feedback loop, isn't it? So that you get that yeah, the constructive, hopefully constructive comments coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Lovely. So beyond the manifesto and the low cost things, which we'll share the links to those as part of this recording, how else can people get involved in Kids and Museums?
So we've got lots of different programs depending on what your needs and interests are. On our website, you will find for free about 100 online resources that anyone can use and access, and they cover a really wide range of questions and issues that we know museum and heritage staff and volunteers come up against when they're trying to improve their organisation for families, children and young people. So we have resources on everything from how to be more welcoming for SEND families or families where there's a member who is autistic, right through to how can you engage more young people with the climate emergency in your organisation, or how you can engage with LGBTQI heritage. So there's lots of different things, and they're all free to access on our website. We've also got lots of case studies. So if you're just starting out, we've got a selection of case studies from museums that have relatively recently started using the manifesto about some small changes they've made. So you might want to read those as inspiration if you're just starting out. And we've also got things about more practical things about your site, like about ticketing, shops and cafes. So there's lots there. Then we have other programs. So we offer during the year opportunities to take part in free national family trails. So we provide trail sheets and stickers and things during the school holidays that organisations can use to help with their collections, and past trails have been themed around children's books. So we've had Where's Wally trails, and this August we are running one around a series of books called Grimwood, which is very popular book for 8 to 12-year-olds. So we have things like that a few times a year. We have an annual award for the most family friendly museum in the UK, which is entirely judged by families. And we have an initiative called Takeover Day, when children, young people and families go into museums. Sorry, not children, young people and families. Actually, it can be families. Children and young people mainly go into museums and do adults' jobs for the day.
And what time of year is the takeover? Because it is a specific time normally, isn't it? And
Yes.
this is partly why we had arranged to talk to you at this time of year, because it will make sense for the timing for takeovers.
So Takeover Day is on the 22nd of November this year, which is a Friday, but you can do Takeover Day on any day that you want. The reason we try to encourage people to do it on the same day is we get kind of a nice PR moment out of being able to shout about lots of young people being in museums on that day, and having their voices heard. So we encourage it to be on that day, but any day is good.
Lovely. And I must admit, when I've been looking around for families' ideas, going to the Kids in Museums website is one of the first places that I go to just see what other people. It's a really good snapshot of what other organizations are doing, a whole range. So you don't have to, it's a really good way, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can see what people are doing, work out what works for your organization or the people that you're working with, whether, like you say, it's different age groups, different abilities, different family, social groups. It's a really great way to have a look and then work out how that will work for you. And I'm always interested in who wins the family friendly awards. And then going and having a look at what they're doing, how they're doing it. And am I right in thinking you can see the previous winners as well on your website? You can see the whole range of people who've won, haven't they, over the years?
Yeah, so we have the shortlist on our website going back to the very first award in 2004. So you can go back and see you could see who's won, who's been shortlisted, and we know that a lot of the shortlisted museums in recent years are really happy to connect with people and either talk to them online or have them come and visit so they can see how they are working with families and giving other people tips to improve. So yeah, it is a really it's a really good resource of ideas about museums doing great work. And in the last few years, we've had special categories, and we always have a category. Well, since 2019, we've had a category for the best accessible museum. So if you're interested in organisations that are doing great work in access, that's a good place to look as well.
Yes, as I say, it just brings together all that really great practice, doesn't it, and best practice across the sort of the heritage sector. And yes, so going back to the timing for Takeover Day, so I'm hoping that as our sporting heritage organisations watch this, they will be thinking about what they might want to do for National Sporting Heritage Day on the 30th of September. But it may be that they can weave in a legacy to whatever they're doing for whatever everybody's planning for their National Sporting Heritage Day to then link in with the Kids in Museums Takeover Day in November. Particularly if you've got if you've had any funding from our community funds or something you may want to implement that's low cost. And I know people can, for the takeover day, they can come in and do things physically, but there's the digital element as well, possibly, to take over. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you can go into an organisation and do a physical project, but equally, if that's not possible, you can do a digital takeover. So you can have children and young, well, assuming it's age appropriate for the social media platform, you can have children and young people take over your social media for the day. So that can include all sorts of things. They could find their favourite objects in the collection and photograph them and post about why they like them. You could set them some challenges to find like something in the collection that's like younger than them, or they're something in the collection that's from a particular country or made of a particular material. You can do all sorts of fun things. There's also an opportunity for them to maybe film short pieces where they're interviewing someone in the organisation, so someone who looks after the collection, or maybe even someone whose memories are part of the heritage, and posting those. So yeah, there's lots of ways to get involved digitally. We've had also some really fun projects. The Museum of the Order of St John a few years ago did a project where they challenged the teenagers taking over their social media to find the emojis in the pictures in the gallery. And we've had organisations where they have imitated like the poses of statues. So there's lots of really playful things you can do as well. And that can work on any social media channel. The one we find that's most popular now is Instagram, but you could also do it on Twitter, X, Facebook, have someone write a blog for a website. There are all sorts of different opportunities there.
And I quite often think having that real sort of breadth of opportunity around the takeover days, if you're used to doing thinking about our sort of sporting collections and sporting heritage, you can look at things from quite a creative point of view. So it's also a good way to try new things if you want to with your sporting collection, and do something quite, like you say, quite playful.
Yeah,
With it, and
definitely.
just see, it might be, taking a step out or outside of what people normally do. That all sounds brilliant. I think there's plenty of opportunities there. Just before we come to the end, is there anything else you want to let all our sporting heritage members know about Kids in Museums? Anything else we haven't covered in our conversation?
No, I don't think so. I think just that we are really open to supporting anyone who has any kind of collection to make it more accessible for families. That's what's important to us. We know that in the average year, about 40% of children aged 5 to 15 don't engage with any kind of museum or heritage. And that's obviously millions of children and young people. We want to see that change. So yeah, so we are committed to doing everything we can to support that change. And also there are lots of amazing collections out there that children, young people and families will really enjoy, and we want to make that happen. So I guess the message is, please do check us out, even if even if you're listening to thinking, oh, I'm not a museum, I'm not really that. We will definitely have things that can help you. So yeah, please do look at our website, look at our social media, and get in touch.
Lovely, that's great. Thanks, Alison. I know that across our sporting collection, there are so many fantastic stories that are appropriate for families. Lots of inspirational stories and stories of achievement and endeavour. And this year particularly has got a whole raft. It's almost been back-to-back sports this
Yes.
summer, hasn't it? And I know there are lots of sports who haven't been covered in some of the sporting competitions, and we cover all of those as well. But yeah, with the run up to the Paris Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All the football, and the women have just qualified as well for England.
Yes.
Although I know that's not necessarily the same for all our home nations. Anyway, so there's plenty of potential. I echo what Alison's saying. Please do go and check out Kids in Museums. There's a whole raft of really useful reference material, material to inspire you, and then tools and resources that you can use. So it just remains for me to thank you, Alison, for coming and chatting with us today, and hope that we will chat again in the future. Thank you.
No problem. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.